Hello, and thank you for coming. Shir Likutey Moharan, Torah Chafalev. As I said before, hopefully, maybe we can conclude the Torah today. We're just going to touch a little bit. I mean, finish what Reb Nosson is writing and sort of like summarize the Torah and what it means to us, as it were. So, Reb Nosson explains that in the future, that there will be there's going to be a possibility. I mean, there will be a situation where a saga in Torah that one tzaddik will get in Olam Haba once he already leaves this world, will be a saga that a tzaddik was greater than him already understood this world, already got in this world, which means that the difference in the saga of the tzaddikim in the future is it's still going to be huge. Every single person will get what he worked for, whatever it is that he has toiled, whatever he invested. This is what he's going to get out of it. And there's just another issue that Rav Nosson said here. Shleimus Hadasu, and the completion of the das, when the makifim are being brought in and they come inside. Then a person is being rescued from all his problems. And it brings a marshal that on the surface looks like it's difficult to understand how the two correlate. But nevertheless, he says, when a person is ambushing somebody and wants to harm him, wants to kill him, so you have to change the garments of the victim so that he won't be recognized. You will change the way he looks, and we'll send him away. It's interesting that this talking to this David says that at the end of a person's days, that the Avodain will change his face, will send him forever, and he never comes back, which will connect in a minute to this union of one tzaddik gets, vis-a-vis another tzaddik, the kind of sagas that they have. But the mashmalos that Rabbeinu speaks about here is if you camouflage the victim, you change his levushim, he's not going to be recognized. By changing his levushim, his garments, it says, he finishes off. In other words, he's no longer in danger of whoever it is that is persecuting him. The same thing happens in the essence of a person. The sechel has the aspect of levushim, of garments. That's the sechel that surrounds the person. As the person doesn't come in yet. What you need to do, you need to internalize, to bring in the makif and to bring it in. Now, what happens is that when you bring the makifin in, that brings from the level that was up to now unfathomable at all. It wasn't even a makif. It's from eternity, as far as you're concerned, comes another makif. Now this, once you take the surrounding secham, you bring it in, you understand it, you get another makif, almost like an ocean. When you have one wave that comes to the shore, another wave comes after it. When that wave comes to the shore, another wave comes after it. The same thing is happening with the makifim of the secham. That when a person brings a makif inside, that brings about another makif, a new makif. So that's considered as if that is, in a certain sense, this is a different person. So keviyochol, by doing, bringing the makif inside, the makif of the makif, in other words, the one is 2 steps away from you, now becomes a makif. Now becomes the one that actually typifies it. These are the clothing, that's the thing that wraps you around. And this is an aspect of changing your garments, as it were, of changing the way you look. The klipos won't know you. That's the first surface of it. This is how a person is rescued and saved from all those who watch out for him and try to say derogatory judgments on him. And now Reb Nosson goes one step deeper with this. It says, Malbush is the gematria of the word chashmal. That's what Arizal explains in this chayv. Chashmal is what in the Star Trek of old used to called protector shield. This is the light, the makifim that protect a person from whom all the mazikim or the mashchitim run away from. And that's why it says, Oiz v'hodo levusha, when the levush, when the malbush, when the maki is typified with oiz v'hodor, is both strength and splendor, then a person is laughing at the prospect of last days. Alida levush, it is through the levush, which is the makif, shulchinas chashmal, which is, as we said, this is the chashmal, that's the protective shield. Shehu levush oiz v'hodor, that is a levush of oiz v'hodor, very, very strong and very splendor. The oiz v'hodor levusha of Atiskat Lemachel means that the levush of the person has to be typified by 2 aspects. One of them is oiz, the other one is hodor. Oiz is shmir sabris. That's kedusha. That's the sanctity of a person. Hodor is the Torah. So when a person leaves this world and he's wearing a malbush, if a person learned Torah but there was no ma'asim tovim and he didn't guard his bris, then the malbush may be splendid, but it is not durable. There's no oiz there. The mashchitim can very easily tear them off him. However, let's say that person was a tzaddik, he behaved himself, the way he should, Kedushas Habris. So his Malbush will have oils that won't be able to tear it off him. Nevertheless, there'll be no terror, there'll be no splendor. And this was what said Megillah Esther. You're not allowed to come to the gate of the king, Bilvush Sak, with a garment made of sackcloth. And sackcloth is very, very strong. It's like a denim. It's like but you can't go to the ball of the king with that. So your garments need to have both oz and hodar to be able to enable you to save a person from the mazikin and to get to Shara Melech. Levush chazak v'noeh. It's a levush that's both strong and is beautiful. Al dei zeh, and once this is what it is, that is enables a person to laugh the last day. A person doesn't fear the last day anymore. Now do it from the last day, from the Sitra Acharon. And he says, Ve'ikar Azman Lazeh, the main time to acquire such a levush is the Chodesh Elul. And a remez to this is Levusha Vatischak Leyoim Achron. It's the acronym is Elul. Teshatevis Elul. Another little Inyan, which in addition, it says that that is Inyan of the 7 days of Avelus, Chas v'Shalom, that the people are mourning him, that his neshama was installed. So the neshama should go up, be elevated to the Orapanim, which is the source. In other words, through these 7 days, because Shiva Yamim is the 7 candles, the 7 days is the 7 candles, through which you get the divine bounty, which is Shefa Eloki, that comes from Orapanim. And with this, a person is being elevated to the Orapanim. That's why the Oval has to do a Kriya, has to tear his garment. Because Kra, which is the root of the word Kriyas, Kufresh Ein, is Gimatria Shin Ein, 370. Shin Ein is the number of the Moharan of the lights of Orapanim, of the supernal lights. Shin Ein, Moharan Shel Orapanim, which are in Gematria is twice the name Kel when it's written fully. In other words, when you take Aleph Lamed and and you take all the letters fully, in other words, Aleph Lamed Fei, Lamed Mem Dalet twice. This is the Gematria of Shin Ein, 370. This is Orapanim. Because Kel, that aspect of Kel is the exposure. That's the exposure of Orapanim. That's a Bechina of Orapanim. So let's just take a little bit of explanation for that. There is a spiritual structure which is called Arich Anpin. Arich Anpin is the sphere of Keser. That's the highest level. And in there is a spiritual aspect which is called Panim, face. And there, in that face, there are 2 names of Kel, Aleph and Lamed. One on the right side and one on the left side. And the 2 names, Kel, in written out fully is Shin Ein, is 370 that comes from the Orapan. Now, when Rabbeinu started saying this Torah, Rabbeinu said that this Torah, I mean, this is what I understood. This is what I understood once the Rebbe said it. Rabbeinu said that this Torah is an answer to a kasha, to a question that was asked in the Shemayim. Rabbeinu went up to where he went up, and he went to a place, in that particular place, they asked a kasha. And he says, what was the kasha? The kasha is as follows. He says, they said, the makifim b'da seichel. In other words, it doesn't come into the human seichel. It cannot come in. It's beyond it. Vishna makifim Torah, and there's also makifim to the Torah. This is the Torah that one cannot understand. Shamakif la Torah, that makif, that surrounding makif of the Torah doesn't get into the Torah. And it says Makifim. It says in the Makifim themselves, there are also two bechinas. Yes, Makifim v'onif ne'ainayin. There are some that are, in other words, they're hidden in plain sight, as it were. They're in front of your eyes. That they're still Makifim, they're still surrounding, they still don't come into, you can't wrap your mind around them. And some of them are totally concealed. They still didn't even become makifim. In other words, you can't even say that it's something you don't know. And that makifim, the makifim for the makifim, are in a state of gestation, of pregnancy, of ibon. And the kasha was, what can you do to have the makim of the Torah to come into the Torah? And the makim of the seichel should enter your seichel. In other words, first of all, let the makifim of the Torah appear and get into the Torah. And then, become makifim. And then from makifim, they'll get into the Torah. Same thing, the makim of the seichel. That thing which you cannot possibly attain because you're only human, from the makif will become pnimi, and from that ibor, that makif and makif will become a makif. And Ibn Nosson says this kasha was asked wherever it was asked. And Rabbeinu Zal said the teretz, after I heard from his holy mouth, the feretz. And then we were zocher to hear this Torah. And now anybody who learns this Torah can easily understand what is the teretz on the kasha. Because the main kasha, the main question is how you give birth to the moichin from the state of concealment. And then once you already give birth to them, how do you bring them down? How do you bring them into the seichel? That was the kasha. It's already explained at great length with what? It is done, the first step is done through crying, both in tefillah and in Torah. This is how you give birth to the moichin. They're no longer, a formula and unfathomable and undifferentiated. And then through the sanctification of the 7 candles, in other words, sanctify your eyes not to look where you're not supposed to, and so forth and so on, and also sanctify your nose and your mouth, and as it were, This is how you're to bring the Makifim in. As we said before, Asher is the person who will put his mind and his heart to look at it and understand it and lishma lasas v'lakayim. So to encapsulate this great epic Torah that we learned, Rabbeinu starts by saying that there are two types of seichel, achol and kedem. Achol means backwards, and kedem means before. The seichel of achol, the seichel of before, is the regular human seichel. Everything that you learn, everything that you know, is based on something that you knew before. You knew it before somebody told you, you experienced, you saw, and so forth and so on. And it's like something that is being built. This is how the human mind grows in its understanding. Rabbeinu says that there is a whole different mode of comprehension, of acquiring knowledge. And that particular mode of acquiring knowledge defies the human logic. You understand things without any preambles, without any hakdamas. You have to go through 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, 4 times 4, is 16, and so forth and so on. You don't have to go from one step of the other. Just you get the whole thing in one fell swoop. And Rabbeinu says, once you understand something in one shot, says that understanding excites the heart. The flame of the heart is excited. You don't need chizuk, you don't need to go running. And we give a mashal, that's like when you get everything together in one fell swoop, it excites you. We'll give an example of a joke. When you finish a joke, you understand the whole thing in one sentence, and then it becomes very funny because it's surprising you get it at once. But if you were together once after, if you were good, as they say, when you explain a joke, it's no longer funny, right? Because you are getting it one piece at a time. So that's why the heart is not getting excited by that. The question that they asked where they asked is the seichel, when you take the words achor, which means back, and the word kedem, that kedem means before. Supposedly, both words would mean the same thing. Achor is behind, kedem is before. What's the difference between kedem and achor? The answer is that achor is just a prior knowledge, that it's predicated on a prior knowledge. Kedem is from the lashon of kadmoina shel olam. It means it always exists. It never starts. It's not a new knowledge. It's an eternal knowledge. The chiddush is that you can get it in. into a mind that works on um, an operating system that understands by Kedem. You understand one thing, and that gets you to understand another thing, and you learn another thing, and another thing. How can you get something which has no limit? How can you bring it in? This was asked, this kasha was asked in Olam HaSamyonim, in the upper worlds. It's unfathomable. How can you bring? That's why the Malachim say, you know, give us the Torah. Don't give it to human beings, because you can't bring eternity. You can't bring infinity into a box, into something which is limited. So the answer to this discussion is that there is a way for a limited person in this world to make himself unlimited in a way, or at least to acquire certain aspects of being unlimited, being able to understand and to grasp a seichel which was always there, which really has no beginning and has no end. It's just a matter of a wave that comes in, and as you prepared yourself, you get one wave in, and you prepare yourself more, you get another wave in, and so forth. So, what does it mean to prepare yourself? What does it mean to make yourself, to get to yourself an aspect of infinity, of eternity? The answer is by pushing away the aspects and the enjoyment of the limited. We have the four senses, which is the speak and smell, the hearing, and the seeing. When we use our eyes to look at what we don't need in this world, when we use our ears to hear that which we should not hear, when we use our mouth to speak that which we need not to speak, when we behave without Yerushalayim, what we do is we cement our stature as limited beings. We have to learn everything. We have to learn everything step by step, one step after another. Because what we're doing is we are shrinking ourselves into being just people. But when we sanctify the seven candles, in other words, we keep ourselves from saying a lie, and we have Yerushalayim, and we have Amunas Chachamim, and we are ready to listen to rebuke, because we realize that's the name of the game. We have to prepare ourselves. And when we make sure that we don't look at that which is beneath us or that which is beyond us, what we do is we become as not of this world. We gain an aspect of limitlessness. We strip off the gashmis that is blocking the godly light from entering us. So enachinami, while we are still in this body, we still have to get it one makif after the other, one wave after the other, as we sanctify ourselves, as we break open one crust of gashmis, by being truthful, by being Yerushalayim, by having Monas Chachamim, and by guarding our eyes, we have made ourselves into Kalim that are able to absorb a makif, which is a seichel p'chinas kedem. It's a seichel that normal human beings, normal, what the world calls normal human beings, do not understand. Because it is endless. So how can the endless get into the limited? It's a contradiction in terms. And when we say by you staying away from what you need to stay away from, in what you're getting from this world, what you're saying in this world, the way that you view this world, as we said in Sipur Maisius, you realize that the world is a castle. It's not your reality. It's the preconditions you've got to work with. It's a story you have to navigate. When you realize and you behave in this world like you are not of this world, you are able to get the makifim, which is Pchinas Oraponi, you can bring them in. So Lemaisa, to wrap it up, we have, in this story, we have visited 7 aspects of the Shiva scenarios. That's the menorah. First, there's the Shiva scenarios. It's the mouth, the nose, the ears, and the eyes. The second one was Pchinas Sukkah, as Shiva Sanana covered, the clouds of glory. And then we had Shiva Simei Mishte, 7 days of merriment, of the Kedushin, 7 days of merriment. And then we go to the last 3. There's Lo Aleinu Shiva Simei Avelis. That's when a person, Lo Aleinu, passes away. Then Avelis occurs. Then we had this Inyan of Yibum and Chalitza, this Inyan of Miriam spending 7 days out of the Machane for damaging the covet of Moshe Rabbeinu. And then we have, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu himself, the 7 candles, the perfection, the 7 candles as it embodies of Moshe Rabbeinu. You have the mouth, by us is, don't say sheker, Moshe Rabbeinu says, pei pei al. In the middle, I will visit this later. In the middle of the first 3 and the last 3, you have the 70 voices that David HaMelech says alamayim, on the water. Kol Hashem alamayim, Kol Hashem yirim, Hashem alamayim rabim, and so on. I have 70 words. And this particular Inyan or this particular Mizmor is how you actually bring about the makif, which is still the ibor, you bring it down. The first three and the last three are parallel to one another. First of all, we have our 7 candles, and the last one that's parallel to Moshe Rabbeinu's 7 candles. Then we have the sukkah, which is Ruach HaKodesh. We have from Miriam. And then we have the Shivas Haramishtan. La Aleinu from the other side is the Nit Ptira and Shivas Yemei Avelis. The main nekuda that comes in here, that you see from one side, it's tremendous simcha. It's tremendous covered. You have Shivas Avelis, when it embodies Moshe Rabbeinu as Moshe Hashem Yabit and this. And then you have Shivas and Mishnah. You have Sukkot. Sukkot is the only holy, the only holiday, the only thing, the only ness in the midbar that we have a holiday for is Sukkot. We don't have a holiday for the man. We don't have a holiday for the bear. All we have is the holiday for the Sukkot, which is the non-covered, which can be discussed of Aaron and Cohen. That's why the Torah says, Emol Aaron, tell Aaron, that's the job of Aaron. He is the one that is Malo the Pnei Menorah. Then we have Shiva Sinah Mishnah. I mean, the happiest occasion there is, a person gets married. So first of all, there is a ha'ora of the Kiddushin, but it's still not, the person still doesn't understand what it is that he's stepping into when he gets married. It takes 7 days, Shiva Sinah Mishnah, for him to actually understand what's going on. On the other hand, on the other side of the candelabra, La'aleinu, there's Ptira and the Shivas and the Avelos. Again, it starts with a shock, with a traumatic event, and then there's Shivas and the Avelos. It is the Tsar, in the same way that it was the Simcha of the Shivas and the Mishnah, now it is the Tsar of the Shivas and the Avelos that enables the Neshama to go and to go up to Orapadu. The main nekuda that we bring in here is that both the kavod that we are zeichet, the kavod elokei, and la aleinu, the busha, and the tsar of Shivas and Avelos, of Yivim Chalitza, and so forth and so on, Gam, the Pogim of Moshe, and every tzaddik is singed from the chuppah of Chaver, the bush of Olam Haba. These are, all of them are tools of getting the Shefa Eloki. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created a remedial plan B, as it were. If a person doesn't get it in good, he'll be able to fix it in that which is unpleasant. Because ultimately, a busha is something that typifies a situation or a demand that is shaykh to you, that is expected of you. In other words, if a person is damaging his sanctity, he has busha from that because the sanctity is expected of him. When a person doesn't realize that sanctity is expected of him, he feels no busha. That's why they said that the children of Ham, they are walking chasuf eshes. with the going, especially now, and in Tammuz and in Elul and Av, the month of the summer, they're basically going exposed. There's no busha. Why? Because they have absolutely no idea that this is expected of them. Busha is already shows if you have shaykhs to this. In Olam Haba, even the busha of Olam Haba is something that comes as a result of the fact that you realize that you had shaykhs to this. You don't get busha from something which has nothing to do with you. There's a bird flying over your head. You're not ashamed that you can't fly. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to fly. You got to do with you. You only feel ashamed when you are falling short of something which is shaykh to you. And it is in the Yibam Chalitza that you see that the Kadosh Baruch Hu brings another tikka, and another tikka, and another tikka. Ki lo yidach mimenu yidach. Look, this world is not easy. There is a situation, there is a state that after you're zeichet to see and to understand and to internalize amazing things, truly amazing things, you go up another notch and you're getting into the olam of Ibor. You don't see anything. We will see all this in Mitzvah Shem Chafei. You can actually falter and fall into things that are really beneath your pay grade, as far as the Yerushalayim go. Without getting into any details, because each and every one of us has his own standard of what he's expecting from himself and so on and so on. The one thing that you can keep in your hand and not let go, which will keep you connected to the Kedusha at all times, is the Busha. You're not up to snuff. You're not behaving the way you're supposed to behave. Keep the Busha, being embarrassed by it. Because the minute they're embarrassed, if you lose the embarrassment, that's it. You cut the cord. It's like you no longer have shachas with it anymore. This Torah teaches us that it is when you are doing what you need to do, or it's chas v'shalom, it's the opposite. Both the kavod and the busha are tools to connect to Or HaPanim. The scene of tzaddik, one tzaddik gets, totally embarrassed from his friend. This Olam Haba, they will say to a person, look what you could have gotten, look what you could have acquired in this world. To say nothing about people who just let everything go. Going out of this world and realizing they had no busha. The busha of the next world, Rabbeinu says, that's worse than all the fire of Gehenna is the busha of Gehenna. That's the worst. We gave you life. What did you do with it? Is definitely a a prerequisite for each and every one of us to internalize this particular Torah that we learned, to say Likutey halachos of Tefillah Chaf Aleph, to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help us keep our mouth from saying a lie, to have Yeshaman, which means not to behave a lie, to have Amunas Chachamim, to be ready to be rebuked, not to look where you're not supposed to. What's above you and what's beneath you. And above it all, just cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ribono shel olam, do me a favor, help me. I'm just not cutting mustard. I can't do it. Do me a favor, do it. Do help me. Get me out. Hashem Yisborach, B'ezrat Hashem will help us. We're to learn this Torah, Lishma, Lasis, Kayim, all the words of this tremendously exalted and holy Torah, and be able to do it and become Elohim, because of every single Torah Rabbeinu, you can take it and go with it for a lifetime and get an unbelievable oil haba through this particular Torah. So I want to thank you all for being part of this incredible journey of Torah Chaf Aleph. And Im Yirtzeh Hashem, coming next week, Thursday, Hashem should help us, we will start Torah Chaf Beis, B'ezrat Hashem. And I want to wish everybody a good Shabbos, and B'ezrat Hashem, Moshe Shabbos will meet again for Sipur Baal Shem Tov and Sichas Haran.